So this happened about 13 years ago. I was 10 at the time. My brother was 8. We had just moved to a new town that year, and the Wal-Mart here had this sweet arcade up near the service desk. So every time my parents would bring us grocery shopping, they'd give us each a few dollars and let us play in the arcade. The town had an incredibly low crime rate, and the arcade was in front of the store where dozens of people are checking out. So what could possibly go wrong? My brother is playing the claw machine while I'm standing on the side of the machine, trying to help him angle the claw perfectly above a stuffed animal he's trying to get. Suddenly, this random hillbilly walks up to the claw machine next to us, inserts a quarter, and begins to move the claw around. But for most of the time, he's making eye contact with my brother and smiling, not even watching the game he's playing. He's not talking to us, just staring and smiling. He has long, thin, brown and silver hair, pulled back in a loose ponytail at the base of his skull, a camo trucker hat, and a long, scraggly beard. I remember vividly the way he smelled: stale beer, ashtray, and something that smelled like a sweet yet sour dirt or fungus. He tries making small talk with my brother and I, who were raised to be aware of strangers but still be polite. Eventually, we get bored of the game we're playing, and I usher my brother to follow me to a new game on the opposite side of the arcade. A few seconds later, the man follows us, stationing himself once again at the claw machine next to us. At some point, an overweight lady walks in and says to the hillbilly, "What are you doing to these little kids?" and snickers at me. He replies, "I'm trying to win them some stuffed animals." She then begins playing the claw machine on the other side of us, so that my brother and I are sandwiched between these two strange hillbillies. His comment comes across as weird to me, because previously, I thought he was maybe trying to win something for his kids, but this entire time, he'd been following my brother and I from game to game, trying to win us toys. This had been going on for maybe 20 minutes at this point. They have followed us to several different machines and spent a lot of money. The games were 25 cents per play. Each time my brother and I switched machines, they'd follow us. The hillbilly says to the lady, "I'm out of money, you got any?" She says, "Nah, I'm broke too." My brother says, "I have $1 still." This is the part that really scared me. I remember listening to these two talk about some weird things with us, asking if I have a boyfriend, asking where we go to school, and where our parents work. But when my brother said he had $1, she responded with the most terrifying thing I'd heard from them yet. The woman suddenly burst out, "Well, damn, then give it to him, boy." Her face was red. The tone in which she shouted was so ear-piercing and gut-wrenching, I could feel the blood drain from my face. My brother looks like he was about to cry. He hands her the $1, and her face lights up. She laughs it off, almost like she's trying to make it seem like she was joking when she yelled at us. My father comes over a couple minutes later. As I turn to tell him that these people have spent close to $15 trying to win toys for us, they leave in a hurry. Before he gets a good look at them, my dad is livid. He takes us up to the front desk and tells them what I told him. They make an announcement on the intercom to keep an eye out for these people, and to report to an employee if they see them. Then they call the police. I don't actually remember this part or much of anything after my father arrives, but this is what he told me. They never did find the couple, but the police viewed security cameras, but it was too blurry to make out any physical details. But they told my parents that the couple left the store immediately after my father showed up without any groceries. Every time I see a man or woman in Wal-Mart that looks like that old couple, I get anxiety and try to avoid them. So to the hillbilly couple lurking in Wal-Mart, I hope to never ever meet you again. Edit. I forgot to mention that the two seemed to be in their mid-50s, from what I remember at least. I believe that they were a couple, but I don't know for sure. I don't think she was his mother though. It seems a few people thought they were mother and son based on the way I explained it, so I apologize for that. When I was 18, I got a job at Wal-Mart, small town, not much else for someone fresh out of high school. I'd been there about a month and worked in the jewelry department, usually from mid-afternoon until the department closed at 9 p.m. And I would close the department myself, but obviously, Wal-Mart is open 24 hours, so other people were always around me. One night, I'm locking the cases up, and putting things away, and an overnight stalker walks by and says hi. I look up, smile, and say hi back, then go about my business. This guy, the only way I can describe him is to say he looks like one of the Bee Gees. Shoulder-length, frizzy hair, kind of bouncy, hop to a step when he walked, and he was in his mid-50s. This started to become a regular thing. On nights I closed by myself, he'd walk by and say hi, and I would say hi back. That's it. No conversations ever took place. Then, on my birthday, a few of my friends who worked there got me a cake, and I hugged them and said thank you, etc. About an hour later, Mr. Bee Gees comes around with a birthday card and gave it to my manager to give to me. Manager thought it was extremely funny that this weirdo got me a card until he opened it. It read, "Happy birthday. I saw you hugging those guys earlier. It made me really mad. But I called a friend and talked it out, and he made me realize you're allowed to have friends other than me. Just please don't hug them anymore. Save those hugs for me." I don't know what kind of emotion showed on my face, but my manager grabbed the card and read it, and then walked me back to the store manager's office and showed it to him. Store manager said the guy was obviously joking, but that he would talk to him about it. I didn't see Mr. Bee Gees for around a week, until one night while I was closing. He put down a stuffed envelope on my counter as he walked by without a word. Inside was 6 pages, front and back, of pure crazy. It was basically his entire life story, all about his family and schools he went to, but with weird stuff, like how his sister was a psychic and his father was an exorcist, and all sorts of weirdness. The end of the letter was about how his friend, who was 18 months old, was missing, and he knew she was being murdered because he could hear her screaming his name in his dreams. What the hell? So that also went to the store manager, and he had me write a written complaint, and he told me not to go outside by myself and not to go near where the guy might be while I'm on my breaks. No, get rid of him. 2 nights later, I was finishing up for the night, and the way the counter is set up, there is one opening. The counters go all the way around both sides. He brought a handcart around with boxes for my department and pushed it into the only opening in the counters, so I was trapped inside. He just stood there and stared at me while I looked at him with what I'm sure was pure terror. I was then, and am now, riddled with anxiety. I don't like confrontation, and the last thing I wanted was for this weirdo to confront me about reporting him twice. He then whispers, "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you." I turned around and started finishing my closing task, pretending he wasn't there, even though I could feel him watching me. After a few minutes, I just looked at him and said, "Weren't you told to stay away from me?" He gave me this gross predator grin and said, "Store manager's name," asked if I was joking. I told him I was. Then he leaned in as close to me as he could get with the counter in between us and whispered, "But I'm not joking." Then he walked away. For 2 weeks after that, he would randomly show up wherever I was. I would leave for lunch. He would be there. Even non-work places. I would go to the mall, and he would be there. Another department manager told me he had been reported by 4 other people the last 2 years for similar behavior. I again went to my store manager, who told me the guy was harmless and maybe had a little bit of a crush on me. He was in his 50s, and I was 18 during this crap. A week later, I gave my notice and quit. He still works there, 13 years later. I'm still freaked out from those events. From 2006 to 2011, I worked in the electronics department at the local Wal-Mart in the small city I lived in. Through those 5 years I had worked there, I had plenty of creepy encounters with strange customers, especially considering the state hospital was directly across the road. This story isn't a regular old creepy encounter, but something that would lead me to being stalked for nearly a year. It all started in 2010. One night, I was working second shift. I was doing my end of the shift routine when a woman in her late 40s interrupted me. She was with a little girl, no older than 3 or 4. "Excuse me, I need some help with my cell phone," she spoke softly. She proceeded to tell me her problem. I need to turn my phone into a straight talk phone. The girl earlier said you could do it. Of course she did, I thought to myself. But my lips said, sure, let's see what I can do. She handed me a 6-year-old phone from Verizon, and I knew as soon as I saw it, I wouldn't be able to do what she wanted. I explained she would have to buy a new phone from Straight Talk and transfer her old number. Basic stuff, really. Now, I always took my job seriously and held myself to the highest standard of customer service. I would often receive letters to the store from customers complimenting me, so I assure you, I did nothing to actually piss this lady off, but sure as hell, she was pissed. Why the hell would I buy a new phone? I already have one, she's screaming at the top of her lungs. She claims that I am, quote, upselling her and being a corporate goon. I finally managed to diffuse the situation, and as she left the department, she gives me the classic, you'll never get a job in this town again. As I'm getting ready to leave my shift, my manager stops me and tells me I got a complaint from customer service from a lady claiming I swore at her granddaughter, apparently told her to F off. I explained what happened and he just laughed it off. My managers knew it was very unlike me to say something like that to a customer. I wish the story ended there, but then I wouldn't be writing this. For the next several weeks, I would get complaints about things I've never done. Sometimes, even on my days off, I would come in to questions from management nearly every day. It was complaints ranging from me being rude to a customer all the way to me doing hard drugs in the parking lot on break. All these complaints were coming from 2 women. As it turned out, it was the cell phone lady and her adult daughter. It turns out they have even been scoping out my work schedule and start coming in nearly every day. They would walk through the electronics to make sure they saw me, and later that night, I would have a complaint. This happened for months. It happened so much, management deemed her as, quote, my favorite customer. To be honest, I didn't care much. I even thought it was pretty funny. I never got in trouble, and everyone knew these ladies were making stuff up and just blew it off. I started caring when she took it to the next level. She started to follow me around. I would see her when I was around town. She made it clear she knew where I lived and would regularly walk by my house. I would see her standing out front just looking at my place. I began getting complaints to the city about my property. Grass too tall, the old shed in my yard, my fire pit, basically everything. She even found out where my girlfriend worked and what her name was, and began complaining at her job. I knew it was her. She would make it so clear that she was following me. Sometimes she would stop in and ask me questions at work and act like the nicest customer. A few times she asked things like, how's your girlfriend? Or my favorite, how can you afford that big house on your little Wal-Mart wage? For about 7 months, she stalked and slandered me. I started telling her I knew what she was doing and to stop, but she would always play it off. I couldn't report her. She never once threatened me. She was just making my life hard. By this time, everyone in my life knew about this nut job. One night, I'm grabbing dinner with my friends from work, and we're joking about it when someone says, what if you just counter-stalk her? At first, I thought it was a terrible idea, but they convinced me it would work, and they would also help me. So we hatched a plan like something you'd read on r/pro revenge. It went as follows. Find her job, find her name and address, make complaints in the same manner as her, find out all the rumors she told about me, make it clear we know, show her that we have numbers. I found out her information easily enough. Turns out, she didn't live anywhere near me. I was even friends with a few of her coworkers. They would keep me informed on crazy stuff she said about me, and even told her to stop. We began doing exactly what she was doing to me. We did this for about 4 months. The more we dug into her life, the more I found out about how obsessed she was over getting me in trouble. She claimed that I assaulted her and urged others to report me and follow me. She told police I was a potential drug dealer. Eventually, we won though. She started putting together that there were 6 of us, digging into her life and asking questions about her. My last month at work, I didn't get a single complaint. In fact, I never even saw her anymore. The day after I quit though, I heard she was in the store complaining about a new person after asking one of the managers why I quit. I'll honestly never understand why she was so hell-bent on destroying me. I just told her to buy a $20 prepaid phone. This happened shortly before Christmas, on a Friday afternoon, shopping in a small local Wal-Mart with a male friend and my kids. I absolutely hate holiday crowds and would have not even bothered going out if I weren't at the ketchup sandwich state of needing groceries at home. I'm in the pharmacy section attempting to pick a hair dye, with both kids in my push basket. My friend is in a different section, answering a work call on his cell phone. My son, kindergarten age, is smiling over my shoulder, and my daughter, toddler, mostly speaks in fragments, says, "Creepy." I turn around and see a middle-aged man behind me, maybe 20 feet back, just looking at my daughter. She's fairly beautiful, so people are always commenting on her looks and talking to her. But this felt different. I was instantly uneasy. I left the pharmacy department and headed towards a grocery department. I needed things there. This friend and I both have those bond bracelets that let you buzz the other person when you're thinking about them, so I gave him 3 rapid buzzes, which is code for call me. My friend comes over to me, and I casually mentioned the man that had appeared behind me, but because I was off my guard, I hadn't really looked at him, just enough to notice his looks were somewhat nondescript, and he was chubby and short. My friend looks at me and says, "I noticed him too, walking behind you when you were heading for the pharmacy." I had a nervous feeling in my stomach. My friend then comments that if we see Creepy again, he'll tell the guy what's up. A while later, we're walking through the refrigerator aisles, looking at coffee creamer flavors and whatnot, when my toddler pipes up, this time to say, "Santa." I turn around, and I'm not making this up. Creepy I got in one of those Santa mascot heads and put it on, and is once more standing behind me, this time waving at my children. On high alert now, I speed walk the best I can with a large basket full of groceries and children, and make my way to the front. My friend has missed his moment, and is too busy following me to say anything to Creepy. I'm practically running to the front. I find an empty lane and start shoving the crap I want to buy onto the conveyor. The cashier begins scanning my things and notices how shaken up I look and asks about it. I proceed to tell him about Creepy. She asks if we can see him. My friend, who is pretty tall, begins to scan the store for Creepy and says he is standing by the grocery exit. The cashier alerts the manager. At this point, we just want to get out of the store and go home. The manager heads in the direction of the grocery exit, and we head to the other exit, and Creepy meets us outside, once again attempting to make eye contact with my toddler. My male friend, who has now found his moment, puffs up to his full 6'5" and 250-ish pounds and roars, "Back the F off," and Creepy backs off immediately. As we are noping it out to the car, the manager and 2 other employees approach the creep, which is the last we saw of him. I toss the crap in the trunk while my friend is buckling the kids into their seats, and we hightail it out of there. I stopped hyperventilating shortly after that, but it is now May, and this is still on my mind. He may have been mentally ill. In that area where we were shopping, there's an outpatient hospital that treats patients of the mentally ill, substance addiction, and potentially dangerous to themselves varieties. Nonetheless, I'm glad my friend reacted the way he did, and I am somewhat embarrassed at myself for not reacting in a similar fashion.